Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Buck Rowell. Alright, I got a little bit of a woodworking project that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's actually kind of a rainy day out and kind of a cold day out, so not a good time to be out and about, so good day to work in the garage and work on a little project. This is actually something that's been kind of bouncing around my head for almost 10 years now. Let me explain to you what I want to do today. This is a bucket of beach sand that I've been hauling around with me now for nearly 10 years, and I collected it at one point with the plans of doing something with it, and like I said, I never got around to doing it, but today is the day we're going to start doing this. This is actually something I'm going to make for my mom. She doesn't even know this exists, but about 10 years ago, she and my father celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and to celebrate the event, they invited my sister and myself down to a resort that we visited many times in San Diego called, well, it's called Paradise Point now. It used to be called Vacation Village. It's on Mission Bay, kind of right across the bay from SeaWorld, if you know the area. And they rented 3 bungalows side by side that were all beachfront property on this little man-made island, and we just kind of hung out for a week. What I did at the end, however, is I thought, you know what I want to do is build a little like shadow box with some of the beach sand from this event that I collected at the beach at that time, and give that to my parents at some point. Well, like I said, I never got around to it, and today we're going to try and do that. So I'm going to create a little shadow box that she can set on her table. It's going to have a plexiglass lid. It's going to be filled with this sand, and then it's going to have some seashells that we also collected at the time. I think this is going to be kind of a fun project. My mom has no idea this is coming, so you know, it's all going to be a big surprise. She's going to hear about it by seeing it on this video before she even gets the thing, but that's just the way it works. She's going to have to sit and wait. So I went over to Home Depot and bought I just figured I was just going to need a few little pieces here. I want to do a little piece of angle iron that's going to go in the corners. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. That's my plexiglass, and I got some screws and a couple little hinges too, so that the top of the box can be opened up and she can reach in and touch the sand and stuff like that. I thought she'd enjoy having that. I know how much she enjoyed going to the beach, so this will be a little reminder of that. And then, of course, I've got some lumber left over from past projects that we're going to use to finish this thing off. And like I said, it's going to be a pretty simple little project, but I think it's something my mom will really like. First thing I got to do is start constructing the box, though. All right, a little time has passed, and I've basically cut the basic pieces right now. And got it basically to the size and shape I want. I got to trim it down, smooth it out a little bit, and attach it all together, but we're coming along fine. So the next step is to secure the sides to the bottom and glue that together and give that a little setup. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, a little bit more time is done. I basically created the general shape of the box. I'm going to route off the edges a little bit because I always find that this is a better way to get a nice smooth surface than trying to cut it exactly. Because when you're trying to deal with, like, you know, hundredths of an inch, it only takes a little bit of an oversight, and then you've gone too much, and then you got a problem, because then nothing else is going to fit right and all that. So I always prefer to cut it a little bit long and then smooth it off with the router. Now, since I'm just doing this with plywood, I don't want to see the plywood edges, so I'm actually going to cover it up with this metal trim work, and I'm going to paint this black, and so it'll look really cool on there, and it'll be screwed into place, and it'll provide a little extra strength, and it's basically just there to cover up the fact that I'm using plywood for this, so over maybe some more expensive oak paneling or something. Alright, some more time is done. I've smoothed off the edges all the way around, repositioned or smoothed the top so it's a perfect flush, and I put the hinges back on for the first time. So I use these kind of old-fashioned hinges. I kind of want to make this a kind of do the golden oak color stain that I've used before, but like I said, it's going to have the accents on the edges of this aluminum bracket that's going to be painted black, and so I think it's going to look really, really sharp when it's done. And then, like I said, I'm going to cut out the hole on the top, and we're going to put the glass in there, or the plexiglass in there, so that you can look in and see what's inside. I think it's going to really cool. I think my mom's going to love this. All right, a little bit of time has gone by, and I've cut the hole in the roof now that's going to have the glass on top of it. So thing is pretty much ready to go now. I think the next thing I want to do is take the top off and route out the little bit of a gap that the plexiglass is going to sit in, and then we can get that permanently installed in there. We're going to use some kind of decorative screws to kind of hold that in place. And like I said, I'm going to put the metal brackets on the side, and they're going to paint them black. So this is going to look really nice, I think, when it's done. Now, this part's going to be a little bit dangerous because one tiny little mistake on this, and I've ruined the top. So I'm going to have to be very careful positioning that, getting the plastic in exactly the right depth, and doing all that fun stuff. But I think we'll be able to pull that off. All right, so I've cut the notch along the edge here that's going to have the plastic or the plexiglass in it, and I actually rounded the corners a little bit on the plexiglass because we got kind of rounded corners here, you know, because of the router bit. So I rounded that to make everything kind of fit in there. It's actually in there really nice and snug and tight, so I think that's just about perfect. Now it's still got this plastic protective cover over it, and frankly I'm going to leave that in place until I unveil the final product, because this plastic can be very easily damaged, and I want to try and protect it as much as possible. But it's coming along really well. I think that this is going to look really nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is put screws in here all the way around to hold the plastic in place. Okay, so I got the plexiglass cover secured to the lid. It actually fits pretty well. I just used these white screws that I had actually floating around. Ultimately, I'm going to paint them black because I want them to kind of go with everything else. But, you know, the beauty of going with you know, painting them myself and making them my own color is I can make sure that all the pieces are the same color. You know, if you buy a piece of aluminum like that's painted, and then you get some painted hinges and get some other painted screws, it might not be the same color. So that's the advantage of kind of doing this yourself, and we'll get those painted black before we install the final thing. I think the next thing I want to do now is put the metal brackets on the side of this thing, and so that's the next step. All right, a little bit of time has passed. I've put the sides on now. As I said, they're going to get painted black, so they'll look nice in there. Got the lid back on, and I think that's what the final product's going to look like right there, except for the fact that now we're going to take it all apart, and we're going to stain it and finish it and make it look really nice and pretty. So that's the next step. All right, a little bit more time has passed. I've now taken the whole thing apart. I'm gonna go and paint all the brackets and the screws, and I'm also gonna stain and finish the box. So that's gonna be the next process, and that'll probably take the rest of the day. All right, so I just finished the staining of the box. It's actually a pretty simple process to stain this. Basically, you just want to cover every inch of it, of the wood you can, with the stain. They recommend going with the grain of the wood, so this way versus this way. And once you get it all on there, you use a rag, wipe off the excess, and let it dry. And that's where we are now. That's sort of the color it's going to be. That should look really nice, especially with the black trim metal framework on it. So since I got to spend a little time waiting for this to dry, I think what I am going to do is we're going to paint these now and get these going so that they're ready also. All right, so I just finished painting the top of all the screw heads. Basically what I do is I just take a piece of 2x4 like this, drill a bunch of holes into it that are bigger than the screws, just kind of set the screws in the hole, and then hit the top of them. They'll sit like this now until they dry, and then when they're ready to go in, they'll look like they belong there. And I also got the brackets painted. They're going to take a little while to dry, and so at this point we're going to put this in hold and come back in a little bit and continue then. All right, a significant amount of time has passed. In reality, it's the next day. In that time, what I've done is I've gotten 3 coats on the bottom, 6 coats on the side, and three coats on the inside. Just finished up the 3rd coat on the inside. I've also got multiple coats on what will be the lid too. So I think at this point, once this thing dries, we're going to be ready to put this thing back together and see what the finished product looks like. I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be really nice. All right, a couple more hours have passed now. This thing is pretty well dried, and I'm happy with the reflection on it, the glow on it. Looks pretty nice. Coloration looks pretty nice. So I think all there is really left to do now is put this thing back together, and let's see what it finally looks like. All right, there's the final box all put back together. Got the plastic or the plexiglass on the top. Pulled a layer off of it because it looks pretty good now. It's ready to go. But yeah, that's the final thing. And like I said, what she's going to be able to do is I'm going to send her enough sand from the beach from that trip to fill this thing up about halfway. And I'm actually going to put a little sand in it right now just to see what it looks like. Now, in addition to collecting the sand at the time, my niece and I went and collected some shells from the beach. And so we're going to include a nice selection of shells from the beach too. And so I think it's going to create kind of a cool looking little shadow box type thing that can sit on her table. And if she wants, she can open it up and touch the sand. My mom's a very tactile person, so she can reach in and touch this. She's really going to enjoy this. So I think this is going to be something that she'll probably really enjoy and be glad that she has it. And so, like I said, this has been something I've been bouncing around in my head for about 10 years, and it's finally time to do something with it. So there you go. That's my mom's shadow box to commemorate her 50th wedding anniversary with my dad. And I'm going to send this off to her pretty directly. She'll probably end up seeing this video before she even receives it, but that's the way it goes sometimes. You're going to get the surprise before you get the surprise. So anyway, I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.